What's up, guys? Welcome to the Nutrition Guide. Basically, what I'm going to do is just give it to you straightforward. And it's kind of funny because if you were on the last vertical jump program, the Nutrition Guide pretty much hasn't changed. The same 11 rules stand true today as they did 5 years ago. In nutrition, studies come out and basically it just reaffirms what we already knew. You got to eat protein, you got to eat vegetables, you got to stay hydrated, you got to refuel with carbohydrates. So it all goes back to the basics. There's really nothing that advanced here. But that being said, this is the difference maker in your program. So if you do not follow these 11 rules, you are not going to get results. It's easy for us to kind of see some of these pro athletes who are naturally there just because of genetic gifts, who eat like, McDonald's every meal, and they're still jumping 45 inches. Trust me, there's a lot of NBA players that do eat really bad and are still very, very successful, but their genetics might be a little bit different than ours. And if they actually got off the McDonald's and ate the right way, they might be more durable in their career. They might have better energy, and maybe their vertical jump would go up. So first, I want you to just consider your goals, because when it comes to nutrition, you have to have specific goals. You can't just eat good. You got to know what you need to do for your body. Do you need to gain weight? Do you need to lose fat? Maybe you need to gain a little bit of muscle and lose a little bit of fat at the same time. So figure out exactly what you need, because you can't get to where you want to be if you don't know exactly what you need. This program is all about maximizing your genetic potential, and nutrition is such a huge component of that, that even if you go through the motions and finish the program and kill it in the weight room, guess what? You're not maximizing. You might gain still a little bit, but you're not maximizing your genetic potential. And by the time you're done with this program, all I care about is that you tell me, hey, I think I truly maximize my genetic potential. I'm jumping higher, I'm running faster, I'm stronger, and I feel better than I ever had before. Okay, rule number 1, make breakfast the biggest meal of the day. Now, the reason why I'm so passionate about that and why this is number 1 is because I've trained thousands of athletes. I've trained thousands of basketball players. And when I audit their diet, the number 1 thing that is missing is a great breakfast. So a lot of them are having healthy dinners and healthy lunch and healthy snack and pre and post workout, but they're having cereal for breakfast, or they're just having a bagel. So if you get your breakfast really, really good, you can really set up the rest of your day, and the rest of your day becomes easier to eat healthy. And so that's what I try to tell these NBA guys is, look, when you have enough protein for breakfast, your blood sugars are stabilized. So you don't get these crazy carbohydrate and sugar cravings throughout the day. Now, you might still get some cravings, but if you just eat carbs in the morning, just a bagel or just cereal, your blood sugar is gonna spike and then it's gonna drop. And you're gonna have these blood sugar issues, and that's when you're always gonna wanna reach for the candy bar or have the sweet tooth, go grab ice cream. But when you have enough protein for breakfast, it kind of stabilizes everything, so it makes the cravings a lot easier. So the missing piece for most athletes' breakfast is protein. And of course it depends on your body weight, but for most athletes, you're gonna need at least 20 grams of protein at every meal. Okay, so if you have 20 grams of protein, that could be eggs. If you don't wake up early enough to get eggs, I understand that, then make sure that you have something else ready. So I'm a little bit different. I'll cook up some ground turkey the night before, and I'll have it ready for me, and I'll have that for breakfast. I know some people that say, look, I can't get protein for breakfast because I don't like eggs, and they just have fish for breakfast or whatever. It doesn't have to necessarily be breakfast foods. Or if you really want it to be breakfast foods, you could go in the direction of yogurt. You could go in the direction of turkey bacon, that type of stuff. And then if you have to, if you can't get 20 grams of protein, have a protein shake, a basic whey protein powder with some fruit in the morning. So that's at the very least, but ideally you don't want to have that protein shake in the morning. Ideally we want to have 20 grams of real food in protein. Okay, so we got our 20 plus grams of protein for breakfast. Now, along with that, we need a complex carbohydrate source. So a simple carbohydrate source is anything white. So you're looking at white bread, white bagel, pastries, donuts, these type of things. It's basically just sugar. You eat it and it just immediately turns to sugar in your body. And that's what's going to make your blood sugar spike all over the place. We don't want that. So for breakfast, we need more of a complex carbohydrate. So basically anything brown is going to be a lot better, a better option. So whole grain toast, whole grain bagel. You could have oatmeal here. There's really a lot of ways you can go. And then you can have your fruit, which fruit is sugar, but we do need some sugar. We just want it to be a little more natural instead of like this starchy carbohydrates and these sugary carbohydrates. So you could throw in vegetables there. Vegetables are a great complex carbohydrate. They're very high in fiber. They're very low in sugar. So any type of vegetable you can add in. Omelets are great. So if you have your eggs as your protein source and you throw in just as much vegetables as you can in that, that's going to be a very, very good healthy breakfast. And then the other component to a good breakfast is a healthy fat. And some of the stuff that I mentioned already has that. So like animal meats, you're going to get some fat, some more saturated fat. You don't want to add any to that. So you don't want to add like a bunch of butter or anything like that. Certain amount of saturated fat is necessary. It is good. But we don't want to go above and beyond on the saturated fat. Other healthy fats, avocado. So if you could throw some avocado in your omelet, that'd be great. Like I mentioned, almond butter on the whole grain toast or bagel. That's a good way to get some healthy fats. Any type of like nuts and seeds, those are usually good healthy fats. Or cooking oils like olive oil are very, very good healthy fats. So if you cook whatever you have for breakfast in olive oil, that's going to satisfy the healthy fat component. Okay, so those are the things that you need for breakfast. Now get creative. I'm a big believer in just flexible dieting. You don't have to be on this strict diet. You just have to follow these principles, and because if you eat the same thing over and over again, eventually you're going to get so tired of it, you're going to completely fall off the wagon on the diet. We don't want that. I just want you to understand these principles so that you can go in and pick different foods and keep it fresh for yourself. Okay, and then the last component there for the breakfast is you gotta hydrate. We have to have enough water. You gotta understand that the muscle building process requires water. Fat loss process requires water. Is you need at least 12 ounces of water for breakfast. Depends on your body weight, you might need more. If you wanna have 24 ounces of water, that's even better. Now, one more note for breakfast is you got to pay attention to when you're training. So if you're training early in the morning, we have to have the breakfast first. And so that's where it gets complicated training very early because a lot of people want to wake up and then just like slam their breakfast and go work out. You absolutely have to have one full meal in your stomach before we have the workout of the day. So if you're working out at 9 a.m., you might have to wake up significantly earlier at 6:30 or 7 and have that big breakfast so that you're digested and you feel good by 9. The other option would be like if you cannot wake up earlier and you have to train at like 7 a.m., well, then at least get like a sports drink, at least get like a Body Armor, or if you have to, like a Gatorade and some fruit, maybe a bagel, and then come back after the workout and have your post-workout shake, so your whey protein or whatever protein you're taking in liquid form, and then you would have your full breakfast. So one way or another, you can't skip your breakfast, but you also can't eat this full breakfast of protein and high fat right before the workout. You want to give yourself like an hour to 2 hours before to digest that. Carbohydrates are easily digested. It goes through quick, but like fats, healthy fats, they're going to take a longer time. So then when you're working out, your body's still trying to digest. So you're sending blood to the stomach to break down the fats and digest. So you're losing blood from the limbs, and we're not going to get a very good workout because we're not getting enough oxygen to the working muscles. All right, rule number 2, eat lean, complete protein every time that we sit down to eat. Okay, so every single meal we want to try to have 20 plus grams of protein. Now it does depend on your body weight, so I really would talk to your doctor and say, hey, how much protein can I have? Here's the thing, the general population, the recommendation has always been very low. Athletes need significantly more protein because we're so active, because we're breaking down muscle fibers at such a fast rate. So we need more. The majority of athletes that I've seen, now I'm not saying you have to do this, the majority of athletes that I've seen that have made a big transformation, and if you look into like bodybuilding and that kind of stuff, the people who are really putting on muscle, they're getting anywhere from like 0.6 grams of protein per pound of body weight, all the way up till a little past 1 gram per pound of body weight. Now, I stay on the cautious side because when you go way too much protein, you can have some side effects. So I stay a little more on the cautious side, and for me, I stay around 0.85 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weighed 100 pounds, that would be 85 grams of protein. Yeah, probably a lot of you are more than 100 pounds, but if you were 100 pounds, that's 0.85. So that's basically 4 meals of 20 grams of protein. And then since we're getting a post-workout shake that's probably around 20, maybe that's actually only 3 meals. But keep in mind, if you're heavier than 100 pounds, it's gonna take a lot more. So you might need 4 full meals plus a shake. Some people might need 5 full meals of 20 grams of protein each plus the shake. And then it does get tough because if your body weight is very high and you need so much protein, it does become tough because you get full off these big meals. So that's why sometimes I do recommend going up to 2 protein shakes a day, maybe 1 in the morning or and 1 after the workout, or maybe 1 after the workout and 1 right before bed. And that's the one that I prefer. That's the schedule that I like, is I'll have like my 3 solid meals, and part of it's because I'm very busy and I can't sit down to have 4 meals. But I'll have my 3 solid meals, I'll have my post-workout shake directly after the workout, and then right before I hit the bed, I'll also have a protein shake. So again, there's no one size fits all. Your protein requirements are very different, but when we're beating up the body and we're breaking down muscle fibers, we have to get enough protein. Otherwise, that muscle fiber is not going to grow back bigger, stronger, more explosive, and long term, you're going to get injuries. And so there's a lot of different ways to get your protein. Look, if you're vegan, that's your choice. You could still get pretty good gains. It's going to be tougher because you have to pay really close attention to what you're eating. But for other people who do eat meat, try to go as lean as possible. So for me, I try to eat mostly birds and fish. So I'm gonna eat a lot of chicken. I'm gonna eat a lot of turkey. I'm gonna eat a lot of salmon and other types of fish. I will occasionally have beef. I'll have a lean cut of steak. But other than that, I'm trying to, for the most part, eat birds and fish, and I'm trying to do that at almost every meal. So there is always questions about quality of meat. If you can afford organic, do it. Most of my clients or the younger athletes aren't able to really afford that, or their parents don't want to pay for that. It's still okay. Just find the highest quality meat that you possibly can. And I advise doing more research on quality types of meat and where you can find it. You can do that with a basic Google search. Now remember, meat is not the only form of protein. So it's a very whole, complete protein source, but there's also stuff like nuts and seeds are pretty high in protein. Even vegetables have some proteins. And then there's other stuff like yogurt and milk, which I stay away from dairy because I tend to get kind of bloated, and a lot of people do. Most humans don't digest dairy very well, but I'm not one to write it off. If dairy works wonders for you and you like it because it gets you your calcium and it gets you your protein and you digest it well and you could still stay lean and not get bloated, maybe it's not a bad choice because it is really high in protein. Now, the other form of protein that makes up most athletes' diet is protein powder. And so what I want you to understand is protein powder is not a substitute. You still need your full meals. This is just a quick way to get some protein when it's needed. Rule number 3, adjust your carbohydrate intake to your activity level. So think about it like this. Your body is a Ferrari. All right. If you're going to sit that Ferrari in the garage all day, you don't need to go fuel up, right? But if you're going to drive across the country, you better believe you need to get to the gas station and you need to get some high quality fuel. All right. Your body is that Ferrari and that fuel is carbohydrates. So on days where we're going to have intense workouts, let's say you're in a phase where Monday, Wednesday, Friday is super intense workouts. Well, it's okay to fuel up because we're going to use it. So don't shy away from having moderate to high carbohydrates at each meal, and especially before and after the workout, because we're probably going to use most of that. But let's say your Saturday and Sunday where you are off and you're not doing anything, you don't need that much carbohydrates because you're not going to use any of it. And if we eat it and we don't use it, it's going to be stored as fat. Okay, so if you're naturally super thin, you're naturally under 10% body fat, and you're the type that can eat whatever and not gain fat, then this probably doesn't apply to you. You could still eat carbohydrates on your off days and it probably won't matter that much. But if you're like most of us where you do need to lean up a little bit, you would like to drop a few percent body fat, then this rule really applies to you. Saturday and Sunday, if you're off, don't eat a lot of carbohydrates. Or if Saturday you're just going on a slow jog and you feel like you don't need that much energy for that jog, then you can still go low carbohydrates. Your Tuesday, Thursday, let's say you're just going in for core mobility and some work with the feet. Well, that's not going to burn that many calories. We don't need that much energy for that workout. So you do need carbohydrates on those days, but just keep it moderate. Maybe you go half, or maybe you go 3/4, which you normally would on your more intense days. All right, so kind of play around with it and play around with how much carbohydrates you're actually getting per day and match it to your workout intensity. So as I said before, we generally want to stick to complex carbohydrates. Some good sources: sweet potato is a great source. Quinoa is a great source. Forbidden rice, that's the black rice. Whole grain pasta, whole grain bread, vegetables, fruit, these are all carbohydrates. If you're the type that can just burn through whatever and you never gain fat, then you probably can have some more white bread and that type of stuff. But for the rest of us, try to stick to mostly complex carbohydrates. Okay, rule number 4, learn to love healthy fats. So the old thought of eating fat makes you fat is just not true. Of course, there are healthy fats and unhealthy fats. Just through eating your normal protein requirements, you're gonna get your saturated fat. So a lot of people consider that unhealthy fat, but saturated fat is necessary, and it is good for you, just not too much. So we're getting enough of that through our normal protein meals, so you don't need to add any extra saturated fat. What you want to stay away from is trans fats. So that's the fats that are in the boxed goods, so crackers, chips, those type of things that it's not really real food. There's probably going to be a lot of trans fats, things like Pop-Tarts. So that is what we really want to stay away from. That can really hurt your explosiveness, hurt your athleticism, and really hurt your health. So we want to stay away from trans fats. What we want is the healthy fats. So omega-3 fatty acids, polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats. So a quick list of healthy fats: fish are very healthy fats, avocado, seeds, nuts, flaxseed oil, almond butter, even stuff like olives are great for you. Cooking oil like olive oil can be very good. There's really a lot of different healthy fats that you can choose from. Just make sure that you are getting your healthy fats on a daily basis, because there's so many functions in the body that rely on fat. So as a lifter, your testosterone can significantly be decreased when you're not eating enough fat. There's a ton of things that can go wrong with our health when we're not eating healthy fats, and when we're bringing in the wrong types of fat, too much saturated fat, too much trans fats. So really tune in this part. This is kind of the aspect that a lot of people overlook, and this can make a huge difference in your athleticism and your overall health. Tip number 5, ditch the calorie containing drinks. So basically anything that provides calories, if it's a liquid, we're not going to have it unless it's your post-workout protein shake or before bed protein shake. But that includes your juices we're going to get rid of, alcohol we're going to get rid of. Basically, these are kind of just wasted calories, because if you're having juice, it's pretty much all sugar and it's not doing anything for you. So it's really not enhancing your performance. It's just adding sugar, it's just adding calories. So when it comes to getting lean, when it comes to stripping down body fat, this is one of the areas that you can really make a difference, is just cut out all drinks that contain calories and go with water, go with green tea, anything that does not have calories in it. So now if you're one of those people that just can't gain weight either way, or you're desperately trying to gain weight, it is okay to add some juice and add in Gatorade and things with the calories, because again, it's a way to bring in calories without getting full. So it kind of depends on your goals here, but I think the majority of you are probably trying to get more lean, build a little bit of muscle, strip off fat. If that's the case, let's move to water, let's move to green tea, let's drink anything other than juices and sodas and alcohol and things that contain calories, because they are wasted calories. Rule number 6, stick to whole foods. So you want to really eat full, real meals. You want to stay away from anything that comes in a bag, anything that comes in a box, so fast food, or if you walk in the grocery store, anything in those center aisles probably are not real food for the most part. A little trick is when you walk in the grocery store, everything that's on the outside of the grocery store is probably good for you. So that's your produce, you get your meat, you get everything that you need. But as soon as you enter the middle, that's when you're getting into your crackers and your chips and your candy bars and the things that are really going to limit our explosiveness and limit our athleticism and our health. So focus on eating real whole meals. If you can microwave it in 5 minutes, it's probably not a real whole meal. We want to stay away from like microwave pizzas and those type of things that just aren't real food, because the body just does not process it the same. It's detrimental to our health, and because of that, we know it's detrimental to our athleticism. Rule number 7 is have 10% foods. So I call them 10% foods because 10% of the time you can eat whatever you want. All right? That you can't go crazy, you can't have full cheat days, but every now and then you can have a cheat meal, because it is extremely tough to stick to a diet. And if you're being very strict on that diet, it gets super boring after a couple weeks, and then people fall all the way off. And then, it might take weeks or months for you to get back on the diet. I've found for myself that if I just give myself some cheat meals, I can still enjoy life and still enjoy the food that I really like to eat, and kind of keep things fresh, so that the majority of the time I'm pretty clean on my diet. So if you're good 90% of the time, 90% of your meals are clean, whole food, I can pretty much guarantee you that you're going to get the results that you want. But if it's 70% real food and 30% cheat meals, you're not going to optimize your body composition. So make sure that it is 90% clean, 10% cheat. Rule number 8, food prep is king. So this is probably the hardest part out of everything, because it requires the most time, but you gotta get in the habit of preparing your meals up front instead of cooking every single time you wanna sit down and eat. So what I've found is You know, if you can cook your meals on a Sunday and you can cook several chicken breasts, you can cook ground turkey, you can kind of get everything set up into its individual meals in Tupperware, it's so easy to stick to the diet because as soon as you're hungry, you already have your meal. The issue becomes when you get home or when you're on the go and all of a sudden you get hungry and you don't have a meal. What's going to happen? You're going to go to Chipotle or you're going to go to the closest fast food restaurant and you're just going to kind of go off your diet and do whatever you want. So that is the biggest reason that people fall off the diet is they don't have healthy food available. So if you can afford it, meal prep services are great. I advise all of our NBA players to use meal prep services. I use meal prep services whenever I can. But if you can't do that, if you can't afford that, that's okay. Eating healthy can be very cheap. But I really advise that you try to take like 2 days out of the week where you prepare all of your meals. So think about like a Sunday where you prepare all of your meals for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then maybe you have a Thursday where you re-up and you cook again for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So pick 2 days and spend time in the kitchen. Look at this as part of the workout. Look at it as part of the grind, and I think your perspective will start to change. And of course, when you do this, your body's gonna change, your athleticism's gonna change. Rule number 9, and possibly one of the most important rules, is stay hydrated. So there are so many functions in the body that require water. Of course, the majority of our body is water. Building muscle requires water. Burning fat requires water. Almost every physiological function we have requires water for our body to do it. So another thing that I always talk about is fascial hydration. So one of the main reasons that people lose explosiveness and lose athleticism as they age is they start to dry out. So your fascia begins to dry the older you get, and how we combat that is we stay well hydrated, and it takes more than that. It takes myofascial release, and it takes movement. You have to put movement into the system to actually get your fascia to sort of soak up that water that you're drinking. So it is a comprehensive process of hydrating the fascia, but if you don't have enough water on a daily basis, then you're gonna start to dry out, and that fascia is not gonna slide like it used to when you were in high school or when your athleticism was at its peak. Okay, so you young people, your fascia is probably pretty hydrated right now, so you got it good, but as you age, it starts to dry out, and so we have to make sure that we're really staying hydrated so that that fascia slides and so that we don't have friction when we move. So this can be a game changer in your vertical jump and your explosiveness and your efficiency when you run, and every aspect of sports. It really requires healthy, elastic, hydrated fascia. Okay, so as a kid or a high school player, college player, pro player, no matter what age you are, try to get around half of your body weight in ounces per day. Okay, so if you are a 100-pound kid, you probably need at least 50 ounces of water. All right, so your normal, typical like water bottle is probably around 12 ounces. Okay, so you need 50 ounces a day, so plan accordingly. And there's no magic number. The studies have shown that there's really no exact guideline that I can give you because there's so many different factors. Your activity level, how much you sweat, where you live, is it hot, is it humid? So I can't give you an exact number, but I personally do around half my body weight in ounces, and I think that it works wonders. I would say try it out and kind of just assess it. What color is your urine? Is your urine clear or is your urine yellow? If your urine is yellow, then you're probably relatively dehydrated and you gotta drink a little bit more water. So it all comes down to just assessing yourself. When you urinate, it should be clear or at least close to being clear. Now, also, in addition to your normal water intake, you also need electrolytes. So sports drinks, this is where they come into play. Gatorade is proven, it is high in sugar, so you don't want to have too much. Body Armor is a great option. And if you don't want to do sports drinks, there are plenty of ways to get electrolytes through your normal diet. Simply eating pretzels before you work out is going to get you some electrolytes, some sodium. Simply eating a banana is going to get you potassium. And so if you're eating a balanced diet, you probably are getting quite a lot of electrolytes. But just to be safe, because athletes sweat so much, I do prefer to have a sports drink while I'm training or while I'm working out. So one more thing on hydration, there is such thing as overhydrating. So there's a couple ways to do that. One, you drink way too much fluid in general, or two, maybe you're drinking too much water and not enough electrolytes. So both of those are ways that you can kind of overhydrate yourself, and that can be very harmful on your body. So be very cautious when you're increasing your fluid intake. And I would say, start drinking maybe 1 or 2 more glasses of water than what you normally do. Maybe you drink a little more electrolyte fluids than you normally do. Don't all of a sudden overnight go from not drinking anything to drinking half your body weight in ounces. You got to be smart. You got to take slow progression. Now, if you are already urinating clear, you do not need to keep going. So go back to just normal drinking, but don't force yourself. There's a lot of people that tell you need a gallon of water a day, but at half a gallon, they're already hydrated. So then at that point, when they just force more water into their system, they're just overhydrating. So, be smart about it and kind of self-assess, base it on the color of your urine and kind of how you feel. Rule number 10, always have a pre-workout meal. All right, our workouts are so much more effective when we have a good pre-workout meal. What matters most here is timing. And this is different for everybody because people digest their food at different rates. So for me, if I'm gonna have, let's say I'm working out at 11 a.m. and I wake up and I have breakfast at 9, well, that food is probably gonna last me, I'm probably digesting in just the right amount of time to where I'm gonna consider that my pre-workout meal. So I don't need to eat at 9 and then also have a specific pre-workout meal. Now, what if I was training at 11 and I woke up early and I ate at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m.? Well, then I don't have enough nutrients in my system by 11 to consider that my pre-workout. So then in that case, I would have my breakfast, and then 1 hour before the workout, I would have a light pre-workout meal. So it all comes down to the timing of your meals and the timing of your day. But I would say try to eat 1 to 2 hours before your workout. But as the workout gets closer, your meals need to become smaller. So let's say you woke up late and you got to get to the gym. You didn't have your breakfast and you don't have any nutrients in your system. Well, if you got to work out in 30 minutes, you can't sit down and have a bagel with peanut butter and fruit. Your best bet is grabbing a sports drink so that you can get some sugar in you, some carbohydrates, and maybe a little bit of protein, maybe half a scoop of protein powder, or maybe you have some fruit or just something very, very light that you can get in your system. The problem is people start to, 30 minutes out, they have this full meal or they have this huge shake with peanut butter and all kinds of stuff packed in there. And it's tons of calories, it's tons of fat, and then your body has a hard time digesting that. So remember, if you're gonna have a full meal, it's 2 hours before. If you're not gonna have your full meal and you just want a real pre-workout, try to have it about an hour before. And as the workout gets closer, remember you gotta go smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, and then also we wanna make sure that we're always refueling within the workout. So we're always constantly, drinking water during our breaks, and we need some sort of electrolyte and carbohydrate fluid. So I really recommend having a sports drink during that workout so that we can replenish what we're losing. Rule number 11, always eat a post-workout meal. All right, so here's the thing. When we're working out, we're breaking down muscle fibers. We're literally tearing the muscle fibers at the microscopic level. All right, if I don't get enough protein after the workout, then they're not gonna build back up stronger and more explosive. All right, we're fueling ourselves off of carbohydrates, but our body runs out of carbohydrates in a hard workout. It goes to the glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates. Eventually those are depleted, and now we're left with no energy. We have to restore that glycogen, otherwise our next workout is going to suffer. So you might get through today without having great post-workout nutrition, but tomorrow's workout is actually going to be lower energy because you didn't replenish those glycogen stores. And if you don't have the adequate protein, then obviously we're not going to rebuild the muscle. So there's studies showing that there's no magical window. So people used to think that if you didn't get your post-workout meal within like 30 minutes, then you're done, the window's gone. Studies show that that's probably not true. There is no magical window. It's just as soon as you can get the protein in, the faster we're gonna start the rebuilding mode. And the sooner you get the carbohydrates in, the faster we're starting that rebuilding or the replenishing of glycogen. So my thing is, I'm not gonna risk it, and I'm not gonna take an hour or 2 hours. I'm gonna get my post-workout shake right after the workout. All right, before I'm even done sweating, I'm already drinking my post-workout shake. So you gotta make sure you bring it to the gym, because you don't wanna have to drive home and then make it, because that's kind of pushing back that recovery process. So there is no magic here. What I like to do is, if I'm kind of trying to lean up, I'm gonna go 2 to 1. So that's 2 carbohydrates for every 1 gram of protein. So normally I'm gonna get at least 20 grams, maybe even 30 grams of protein, but let's say I'm doing 1 scoop of whey protein, I'm getting 20, well then I need 2 times that in carbohydrates. So I'm gonna go with 40 grams of carbohydrates. If I'm really trying to build and I'm really trying to bulk up, then I'll go to 3 to 1. And most people do 3 to 1. So 20 grams of protein, 60 grams of carbohydrates. All right, so there really is no magic number. Everybody's different in how they utilize carbohydrates. For me, 2 to 1 works. If I'm really trying to build, I'll up it to 3 to 1. Now, I think it's very important that this is a liquid shake. I don't want you to have a full meal right after, because it takes a longer time to break down real food. So every other time I say don't rely on liquid, go with real whole meals. But when it's about speed and we're trying to get amino acids into the muscle fiber as fast as we can so that we can rebuild all of that amino acids into actual muscle proteins, guess what? Speed really, really matters, and liquid gets in and out faster than food does. And so that's why I say get it in liquid form, get your protein shake, and then an hour to 2 hours after that, have your full meal. So if I were training at 11 and I got done at 12, boom, I'm getting my post-workout shake, and then I'm gonna get all my recovery, my stretching, foam rolling, whatever I wanna do that day. And then at maybe 2 o'clock, I'm gonna have my full meal. And so by that time, 2 hours after, I'm probably getting rid of that protein. So that protein's probably in and out after 2 hours, and then our body needs to refuel to stay in that anabolic zone. Anabolic means building, catabolic means breaking down, and our body is constantly going back and forth from breakdown and build up, breakdown and build up. And when we have protein, every couple hours, our body is more likely to be in that anabolic zone longer throughout the day. So when it comes to building strong, explosive muscle fibers, we want to be more in that anabolic zone. As far as the exact protein powder, there's a million different ways you can go. I usually just get a basic gold standard whey. You can get it from GNC or you can get it on Amazon. There's a lot of them that work very well. They're very similar. There's really no magical protein. Just make sure that you kind of do your research and you make sure there's not a lot of other stuff mixed in, because a lot of supplement companies say they're giving you protein, but when you really read into it, they're giving you a lot of other stuff as well. You want to keep just very clean, basic whey protein. If you don't want to go with the whey, you can always go with the vegan protein. Very similar. You're probably not going to be able to notice much of a difference from a result standpoint. Some studies do show when it comes to weight training that the whey protein is a little bit better than the vegan protein, but again, it's such a minor difference that you're probably not going to notice a large change. And some of you will digest the vegan protein better. So if you try out the whey and you don't like it, then try some sort of vegan blended protein. There's casein protein, which a lot of people have a really hard time digesting. I wouldn't really recommend it, but some bodybuilders use it like before bedtime because it's a very slow, sustained release of amino acids. So like whey protein is in and out, but casein protein could last you, a whole night. And so that's why bodybuilders take it, so that they feel like they're staying anabolic throughout the night. Not sure if the studies actually back that up, but that's the idea. So I would stay away from it, but if you have experience with it and you like it, then fine, whatever works for you. Now, one more point that I want to make for the post-workout shake is if you're trying to build, use this as an opportunity to just pack on calories. This is the easiest way to really pack in calories, is making super shakes. And keep in mind, for all of us, whether you're trying to lean out or gain significant amount of muscle, keep in mind that the muscles are like sponges after we work out. They're in a good place hormonally, where after you work out, they're sponges and they're just searching for protein and carbohydrates. And when you feed, almost anything that you're feeding the body, it's going to bring into the muscle, and it's not going to store it as fat. Of course, if you go crazy and you have like a birthday cake, then yeah, it might store it as fat. But if you're having a protein shake where you're packing in some calories and you're throwing in fruit, I even throw in vegetables. You could throw in almond butter, peanut butter. You could, if you digest yogurt well, throw in yogurt and just pack it full of calories. So you're getting plenty of carbohydrates, you're getting plenty of protein, but you're just upping the calories. And at the end of the day, gaining weight is about a calorie surplus. If you're eating more per day than you burn, you're going to gain weight. And just the opposite. If you're trying to strip down and lose weight, it's the opposite. So we need a caloric deficit. So we need to burn more calories throughout the day than we're bringing in. So this is a great opportunity for you guys who are trying to build to pack on some calories. And of course, you're not going to get that full. So you can get several hundred calories in your system without getting full off of it. So then you're still hungry, in an hour and a half or 2 hours later, and you can still get your full meal. So again, it always goes back to what are your goals. There's no clear-cut, cookie-cutter way of giving you advice. It comes down to whether you want to bulk up or you want to lean out. Okay, so those are the 11 rules. Now, there's a lot more to nutrition, but if you focus on those 11 rules, you're going to get the results that you need. And so that's why I don't want to bore you with too much information right now, because when it comes to nutrition, if you really take care of the basics, you're going to get the results that we want. So I don't need you to be on this super strict diet. That's why I don't write out specific foods for you to eat, because everybody's different. And even if I did, you're not going to stick to it for long term. You have to be a flexible dieter. You need to understand these principles and then plug in food, whatever fits your macronutrients, whatever gets you your micronutrients, your vitamins, your minerals. You can plug in whatever foods you like and still get great results. Okay, so I need you to start to just understand these principles and then work from there. Be flexible. Don't be too strict on yourself. Have some cheat meals, and I can guarantee you're going to get the results that you want to get.